Hello, everybody, and welcome to that podcast. We are podcasting live from the 2022 FMSC Fargo MobilePack event. You can see it going on behind us, and I am joined today, as always, by Pastor DJ Lura.
Hey, everybody.
Mark Crea and Dana Mashevsky. Mark, it is fantastic to have you here. Thank you for being here with us today.
I wouldn't miss it. This is just an awesome event for us to be able to restart MobilePack. This is our biggest MobilePack event since we have relaunched that, and not surprising up in Fargo, because you're great people and you care so much about feeding God's kids. So we're excited to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. It's great to have this going again. It's fun to see everybody back. The kids. I'm not sure which school is here right now, but
well, we got a couple.
No
we got North Cass, Central Cass, Cheyenne. I heard Liberty Middle School is here.
Oh wow!
Yep.
And this is just the first
shift.
The first shift of the next 4 days.
The first shift, we're going from today all the way through Saturday. We wrap up, I think, Saturday at, is it 6 o'clock?
Yeah, usually about that time.
Once all the meals are packed, we're wrapping it up.
We don't
stopping.
24/7.
So, Mark, you said this is the first. First of all, why don't you introduce yourself to those who may not know who you are or what you do at FMSC?
Yep. So, Mark Crea, I'm the CEO of Feed My Starving Children. Been with the organization 18 years. We have seen God's hand on this organization and on the volunteers and supporters. And so we feed his kids, malnourished kids, in 70 countries around the world. We do that in some unique ways. So the first thing is the food itself, designed by food scientists, all the vitamins, minerals to rebuild a child. That's so important. We then distribute that food through embedded missionaries and NGOs in the countries. So we don't work through the governments, through the big entities. We want to get it directly into the hands of the people, the organization that is feeding the kids, whether that's in school, whether that's in an orphanage. And it's all packed, well, it was all packed before COVID, by volunteers. And so during COVID, when we couldn't have volunteers, we shifted to some machine packing. And now it's a blend. As we can get more and more volunteers back, that's our preference. We call it the Hairnet Brigade. And the need is great. It is. I've never seen it like it is today. So this event will feed a lot of kids.
That's phenomenal. You said this is the biggest one since you started since the pandemic. Is that right?
Right. So we restarted mobile packing the beginning of last year, where we started doing that. And again, lots of trial and error. And so most of those events have been smaller events. So 100,000 meals, 200,000 meals, which is wonderful. That's awesome. But we have done multi-million meal events in the past.
Yes.
And we did them here, in fact, in the past. And so to get back to a big number again this year, it's kind of like you're using muscles you haven't used for a couple of years.
Sure.
So
getting back really on the treadmill after a long winter.
Oh my gosh. But I would tell you that this is going to sound weird, but there have been COVID blessings for us, because it has forced us to do things that we wouldn't have normally done. Sure. As far as how we're producing meals and the variety of things, so many logistical challenges. But I would say the most significant part has been how God He's always been here. We've seen and felt His presence, His favor, nothing like the last 20 months. And our partners are so grateful, because most of their other support wasn't there, but Feed My Starving Children was with the food.
Yeah. It is neat, and it's great. You mentioned working only with NGOs. Something that Dave Gunlickson, who has been on with us before, has talked about is the percentage of meals that make it to their destination. Yep. I think that's just phenomenal, and the number is so crazy that I forget it all the time, but it's in the high 90s, right?
Yeah, 99.8% It's now 3.2 billion meals.
Wow.
That's a lot.
And these are going to very, very difficult places. And no offense to Ohio, but I couldn't send 3.2 billion meals to Cleveland and have a 99.8% delivery rate.
Sure.
Right.
And so we see God protect this food because we pray and ask him to do that. And it's an amazing thing to watch.
Yeah.
Because it's got to get to the tummies of those kids.
Yes. Yep, exactly. And it's huge. Were you going to say something, DJ?
Well, I was just going to say that Ryan and I both work with the middle school youth at our church, and we were talking to them about kind of heroes of the Bible. We were just learning about King David, and it was right before today. It was getting ready for today and getting the kids to come and pack, and it was fun for me to be able to say to them, and it was just kind of this new realization is that how often do you get the opportunity to be a hero in such a way that you may think it's not that big of a deal going and packing food for an hour or two, but you're doing something that is life or death for someone else. And so by going and packing these meals, you get to be a hero and love your neighbor and protect them and save them.
Yep.
That's super cool to me. And that's what happens with Feed My Starving Children.
Yeah, it's very cool. I had a question and I now forgot it.
Well, my point was so profound and so awe-inspiring.
It was.
Just everything else leaves.
Just nothing can follow.
It was.
Mic drop.
Mark Crea is here with us. And how many events do you have lined up for 2022 now? Now that you're back, you're rolling. Are you back to full swing yet? Or are there still some places?
No, we're still rebuilding and a little tougher in some parts of the country just to work through all of the protocols and everything.
Sure.
But our goal this year is to provide over 200 events nationwide. And that puts us back about 2/3, 3/4 of where we were pre-COVID.
Okay.
So we're just going to keep building. The response has been tremendous. So many people have come up and just said, "Oh my gosh, this feels so good to be back doing this." And Pastor, you're right. Give me your hands for 2 hours, and you're going to transform somebody's life. You're going to, hunger to hope, right?
Yep.
If you're hungry, how do you have hope? Put a child in school who hasn't eaten in 3 days. It doesn't matter.
Right.
They can't learn. So let's do that. 24 cents. Let's feed this kid this highly nutritious meal, and that foundation you can build on.
24 cents.
Yep.
That's amazing. That and the number of meals that make it where they're going. It's just you mentioned it earlier. The hand of God over the whole thing is just incredible. What you're doing and how it's getting done and keeping. I mean, you can. I don't know. Hopefully they can see at home. If not, watch the live stream. We'll get back to a closer shot later on, but. To see the enthusiasm in the kids coming in and just being fired up and ready to do this, it's incredible.
Yeah, and I would say, because Pastor, when you were talking, it reminded me that kids get it. I mean, it's almost like, okay, kids, bring the adults, bring your parents along, because they just instinctively go, well, I don't like that. This doesn't make sense. I mean, what do you mean a kid doesn't have anything, and I can do something about it? Wow. Yeah. It is the best. Half of our volunteers, and coming up to COVID, that was 1.4 million in 2019. Half of those were kids, were young people. So when we fret about, oh my gosh, what's this next generation? I would point to that and say,
they're stepping up.
They're stepping up.
They are stepping up. Say, if you're watching this, you haven't signed up yet. If you want to, there are still shifts open. You can go online, FMSC.org/Fargo. Is that correct?
Yep.
FMSC.org/Fargo.
FargoPack.org.
FargoPack.org.
FargoPack.org. You can go there. You can get signed up. You can come and be part of this. You can probably hear Footloose playing in the background right now.
Maybe.
Not just there. If you can go to atonement.live and it'll link you right to signing up for the pack.
There you go.
For today and for Saturday.
Okay. Yeah. So
Today's full though.
Today is full.
Saturday.
Is tonight full too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we have openings on Saturday.
think so.
Check.
Yeah, we should.
Check it out. Go online.
We're like directing these people somewhere, and I have no idea if it's going to work.
It'll show you what's available, what's open. I believe we have spots still open.
I'm
that can be
following
filled.
what Amy said, so
I just know that last night,
different issues.
Wednesday night, was full.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. It got full.
And I tell you what, either way, if you go online, there's spots open.
You can
come
find
in.
it. Google it.
You can come in. If there are no spots open, or if you still want to help, you can't come and pack, you want to help, you can do that financially as well. There should be a link there, I believe, to be able to donate financially to keep this operation going.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful. Mark, I have another question for you. We found at Atonement that there are things that came from COVID, ways that we do things that we weren't doing before that we're doing now that actually bolstered our ministry.
Yes.
Are you finding that as well?
We are. And one of the things we had to do during COVID was find other ways if we didn't have volunteers, because they weren't allowed to come in. How do we produce this food? So we did something I said we would never do, which was use machines to pack some food. That's more expensive because we don't have free labor from the volunteers. You also don't have some of the donations that volunteers will bring, but it didn't matter. So we went ahead and, again, the Lord was there. People helped financially to support that. So we ended up producing hundreds of millions of meals by machine. And so that's changed now, but that is now, I would tell you forever, a part of the mix. We want it to be dominated by the hairnets and volunteers, but it gives us an ability to quickly respond to disasters, things that we just couldn't do before. So our capacity today is many times greater than it was in 2019.
Wow.
And that wouldn't have happened.
Sure. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it gets us out of, it's very easy to get caught into this is the way that we do it. This is the only way to do it. This is the way we've always done it.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, let's keep doing it.
Right. And then something like a pandemic happens, and it's like, how can we share the gospel? How can we serve people and love people when we can't really meet face to face?
Sure. Yeah. How did you find, and again, we're with Mark Crea from FMSC, Feed My Starving Children. Did you find issues with the supply chain at all, with countries being shut down or maybe not allowing things to come into the countries, or have all the NGOs in the countries been able to find ways
to do their
yeah,
thing?
right.
Yes. I would tell you pretty much everything, or how we did everything pre-pandemic, has changed. We've had to adapt, adjust. We're actually pretty good at that because we work in places that change quickly. But these were big changes. So logistics, supply chain, I think anybody who's out there trying to do anything knows what a nightmare that can be. And yet, God's been there for us. Our staff are so dedicated, smart, and so we found workarounds. We found ways to get these shipments. Most of the rest of the world dealt with the pandemic by simply locking down. They maybe didn't have all of the resources that the United States does medically and otherwise, so you just lock people down where they are. Well, how do I earn a living if I'm in that state? So we were able to find other ways, more difficult, more dangerous than ever before. But God is still there protecting this food. And the missionaries and NGOs that are doing the hard work in country are they're walking saints. They are the most courageous, smartest, passionate people that are they're walking with the Lord every single day, and they're bringing food and ministering to people when they need it the most.
Yeah. That's
This got me thinking too, Mark, that Feed My Starving Children kind of had a rebirth about 16 years ago. in that time that you've been able to, with these supply lines to certain parts of the world, have you gotten to a point where an area that you were servicing has now said, you know what, we're doing much better, and they either step back from the need for the food or are becoming partners in distributing the food?
Right. Or you distribute it somewhere else in need. It might still be in that country.
Right.
So the short answer is, yes, we've seen some of that happen, but the nature of where we're working are some of the toughest places. And so progress generally is very slow. I was talking to a partner a week and a half ago, and he just said, this is the long haul. This is, if you think where I am that we're going to fix this in the next couple of years, no, this is generational. We do see progress. We do measure those things. That makes a difference.
Oh, I've seen videos of some of the kids that have grown up eating this food, and it's a lifesaver. It completely changes a person's life. Yeah. And it gets me thinking too. In the United States, we have all this abundance of food, but we're still starving for nutrition. And boy, we could use some thinking the way that Feed
maybe
My Starving Children
nutrition?
does. Maybe a little spiritual nutrition would help too.
Yeah.
Well, and that was one thing that really sets apart Feed My Starving Children. You and I talking about this beforehand, but you guys, you're not afraid to make clear that you're Christians.
Right. This is why we're doing this work.
Yeah.
And when the organization really kind of, I called it our born again time when the organization made that recommitment. The Lord has been blessing us. We went from 3 million meals a year to this year 400 million meals. Well, 400 million meals. That's crazy.
Yeah. The number. It was almost, that's 100-fold return, but the number that we looked at, I thought was like a 1,000-fold return. It's growing that way. Yep. It's amazing.
Yeah. We add, God multiplies. Yeah. That's kind of the way we've seen it. We really have, and so it's a blessing to be able to get this food, and we don't take anything for granted. We just know that to expect this food to automatically get there or not just is not likely. And so 25 reasons why this food shouldn't get there, and yet it does over and over again. And that's a huge, those are miracles we get to see all the time.
We talk about that. I don't believe in coincidence anymore. That's just God choosing to be anonymous.
Yep.
So,
well, I would agree. I would tell people, so delivery rate, number of meals, the percentage, any of those things, we're either the luckiest organization in the world, or God is there helping and protecting this food. I know which one of those two I believe in, but
it's funny the way you put that, because it's like, okay, which one's more likely?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's great.
Yep.
So, again, if you're just joining us, we are, this is That Podcast, podcasting live from the 2022 FMSC Fargo MobilePack packing event. This is the first shift of the day. Today, Wednesday, we're going all the way through Saturday. We're here with Mark Crea from FMSC. Again, thank you. I know you're busy. You've got a lot going on. I appreciate you taking the time to come and visit with us.
Well, and I don't know, do people know what the goal is this year? Because we've been setting some pretty high goals that were prior to COVID. Then in the midst of COVID, we had different goals with the telethon and things like that. Right. Still finding ways to get meals to kids and get the grocery bills paid.
Yep.
This year, our goal is, I believe, 2 million meals. Is that correct?
Yep. 2 million meals.
2 million.
And our largest mobile event so far in the relaunch is 800,000 meals.
Wow.
So Fargo
we're busting the record.
You're taking it out a whole new door, let me tell you.
That's great. Over the course of since the pandemic started, have you been able to get out? I know it's been difficult, but have you been able to get out into any of the countries where the food goes to at all? Have you been able to visit any of them, or?
I have not.
Okay.
A couple of our staff have, and it's making me crazy. Because it is a blessing to spend time with our partners and and to see the kid, so many kids, Pastor, you said it. We've got kids I remember feeding, when they were just little, and they're grown up. They've got families. We've got a person who has started their own nonprofit feeding kids in the community. He grew up as an orphan.
Wow.
Our food.
Yeah.
And so, wow, those are powerful things. So, yeah, this is just simply the best. And the need is there. We're just going to continue to do this.
Well, and I don't want to say anything too controversial because, everyone has their own opinions, but if you want to talk about what does pro-life look like, that's pro-life.
Yeah.
Someone's entire life being blessed that they can thrive.
Yep.
That's powerful stuff.
That just struck me when Feed My Starving Children first started. I don't know if the long-term vision was in mind at that time, but talking about those individuals who were kids and had the meals, and now they've started their own thing. That's a complete culture shift.
Yes.
Yeah. That's literally changing that culture, that country, and Feed My Starving Children is doing that.
Yep. And we just see it all the time where, if I'm healthy and I have an opportunity to go to school and now I'm actually learning, and physically I'm healthy because of my nutrition, I don't care whether I'm going to be a farmer, a laborer, a pastor, a teacher, a doctor, whatever. I can now do that well.
Yeah.
And that's the transformation that happens. And I don't want to go back to anything else other than this. And
right.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. It goes beyond just not being hungry. It changes everything. Yeah. It's amazing.
Absolutely
it's
does.
cool.
Well, it changed, and not just on that end. Look at what's happening right now out there. You have kids and adults and people all working together for a common goal. You want to know what the church looks like? This is what the church looks like.
There it is.
Above and beyond anything else that we do as God's people, this is it. This is loving God and loving people in action.
Exactly. And if you can't see it right now, if we're
take
in
our
the
word
way,
for us. Take our word for it.
If we're in the way, you can't
We can see it.
Yeah, we're going to be streaming. We're going to stream all the way through the MobilePack. So after we're done, we'll switch back to a different camera, and you'll have a better angle. You'll be able to see what's going on down there. Again, Mark, I can't thank you enough for coming on, for taking the time. Are you hanging out today? Are you hanging out a couple of days?
Yeah, I'll be hanging out here today, and then I'll be heading off to my next event. So.
Yeah, cool. That's great.
Yep.
I don't know how we're doing for time, and do you know, DJ?
We're fine.
We're good?
We can wrap her up
good.
if you want.
Good. Say, Mark, do you have a favorite story or a favorite? You talked about the individual who's doing his own nonprofit now.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite memory of your time at FMSC, whether it's here in the States, a different country, something that you like to think back on?
Well, this might be it from going forward, is being on that podcast from Atonement.
I
So.
will be
the
done by
highlight.
midnight. I promise you. There are so many. It is the thing for me that just kind of holds everything together, because I just get to see the Lord. There's nothing as powerful as holding a malnourished baby, or at times I just don't know which of the stories, because there's tragic stories and there's others, but no child should die because they simply didn't have food.
Yeah.
Or their parent couldn't go and grab a Tylenol or a baby aspirin and give it to their, that's just not the way it should be.
Right.
And so to be able to do this, to see a smile on a mom's face, because I'm sorry, for all the moms out there, you rule. The world is driven by what moms do. So I'll tell you a quick story. This happened a couple of months ago. in Uganda. The pastor we work with there, we feed thousands and thousands of kids there in a lot of ways. And so one of the things that they've done is they've locked down during the pandemic, so people weren't allowed to leave. So in talking to Pastor, so what are you doing, Pastor? He said, well, I take your food and I load it in my car every day, and I take a couple of my guys with me, and we go out to the villages and look for people who are in dire need. And that's risky for him because you're not supposed to be out and about, but he does it anyways. And he said, so this was a couple of months ago. So he said, so last week I was out, I went to a village. There's a thing you can do. You can put a white flag outside your hut, which tells the government something really bad is going on in there. He said, so that's where I go first. So I went up to this house with a white flag, went in, knocked on the door, and this young woman opens the door. He tells her who he is and that he's there to help her. And she invites him in, and he looks around, and here are her 4 children laying on the dirt floor. And she tells them she hasn't been able to feed them for a week. Moms, for a week. And has nothing to do. Her husband had left a couple of nights before to try to sneak out and find something for the family. He hasn't come back. She doesn't know what happened to him. And so Pastor goes to his car, gets a box of our food, and puts it in this woman's hands. And she breaks down because I've never had more than 1 or 2 days worth of food ever in my life, and you have just given me a month's worth of food for my family. And she looks at the box, and it says MobilePack, rice on it. That's the name we give it. And she looks at the box, and she goes, oh, manna. I know that name. You know, I read the Bible. Mm-hmm. And she looks at Pastor and goes, are you Moses? Wow. And Pastor goes, no, I'm not Moses. Well, is this food from God? And he says, well, actually it is. It's kind of gone through a few hands to get here. So she just breaks down. So what is the next thing this mom does? Now she has got a month's worth of food in her hands. Her children haven't eaten in a week. The next thing she says to him is, you know, some of my neighbors are hurting a lot. Can I share some of this food with them?
Wow.
Yes, of course. You can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. There's that mom. I mean, I can't imagine what I would do. I'd be hoarding that, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You know, after saying, well, good, now I have something for my kids, but you know what? I've got to take some to my neighbor.
Yeah.
And help them.
Wonderful.
That's so, man, that's amazing.
Such a cool story.
Yep.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
So you
that's the gospel right there. It's contagious.
You see that. You see kids in a feeding program, and they're putting some of the food in their pockets.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the heck is that all about? Well, I know what it's about. It's about them saying, well, I'm not going to eat all this food. I've got to bring this back because my brother or my sister or somebody else hasn't eaten at home, and I'm bringing this back for them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's very cool stuff. Very powerful.
It is. So
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that story. Were we getting the wrap up?
We are. Yeah.
Okay.
The executive pastor saying, "Let's go."
All right. Well, we better wrap it up then. Mark Crea, FMSC, thank you so much for being here again. I really appreciate it. If you're watching, well, obviously you're watching right now. We're live, FMSC 2022 Fargo MobilePack. You can go online to, what was the website?
FargoPack.org.
FargoPack.org. You can find out more information. You can see how to help. Mark, thanks again.
Thank you guys. God bless you all for this event and feeding so many kids.
All right.
God bless you too.
And thank you for watching. We'll go back to our live stream so you can watch the action.